Welcome, everyone. I'm Rabbi Mary Zamore. I'm the Executive Director of the Women's Rabbinic Network, and we, in partnership with HUC-JIR, are welcoming our WRN member, but more importantly, member of the HUC-JIR community, Rabbi Rachel Maimin, and we're really grateful for you being here today to talk about the reissuing of graduation documents. We are recording this and we're going to be sharing it with the greater public so that graduates of HUC can get even more transparency and clarity around this opportunity of repair. And we're very grateful, Rachel, for your being here today to help with this. So I'm just going to throw it directly to you for you to introduce yourself, what you're doing for HUC and for the alumni community at this moment, and some of the things that are going on that everybody should know about.
Thanks so much, Mary, and thank you for organizing this and bringing us together in all the many ways we are together today, and listening to this recording as well. So hi, everyone. I'm Rabbi Rachel Maimin. I was ordained in 2013 and have been serving at HUC in a few different capacities for just over a year now. About a year ago, I came on to support the work of the Teshuvah working group, which I'll talk about in a little bit, led by Rabbi Dr. Laura Novak-Weiner and Rachel Margolis, both alums of HUC. And that developed further into my coming on full-time as Teshuvah director. And also I serve the other part of my portfolio at HUC is Associate Director of Recruitment and Admissions. So we're here to talk a little bit about, as Mary said, about the reissuing of diplomas, of master's degrees, doctoral degrees, and ordination documents, and also to give a little bit of history on how we got to this moment in time, and to share more about what's going on in the Teshuvah process at HUC-JIR over the next 6 months in particular, focusing on that period of time. So as Mary said, perhaps today, in just a moment, I'm going to turn it back to you, Mary, to share with us some of the history. But just to give a word or two about more about my work, is that the reissuing of documents is the work that is the part of the process that is already open, and we'll dive more into that. We are also going to be having moments of ritual gathering, opportunities for reaffirmation of ordination, which I'm happy to talk about to the extent that I can a little later in our call today, as well as further opportunities for listening. We know that that some here or some listening may have already shared our stories with Morgan Lewis during the investigation. And we know that there are some among those 170 and others who might be interested in sharing our stories with one another, and also with the HUC-JIR administration. And so happy to share a little bit more about that process and where we're at today, and where we intend to be over the next 6 or 7 months. For now, I'm going to turn back to Mary, who will share a good portion of history beginning in 1972.
Absolutely. And before I do that, I just really want to express my gratitude, and I know Rachel's gratitude for everybody who has come forward as victim survivors and shared their stories and been part of this very difficult process of accountability and repair. And we're very grateful to be now working on the repair. And as Rachel pointed out, that maybe some of you were not ready to share your stories, and that's okay. You don't have to, but if you do feel like that's something you want to do, we want to open up those opportunities for you to do that. I also express my very deep gratitude for everybody who's working on the accountability and repair. So thank you, Rachel and Laura and Rachel and everybody else on the task force. So as we try to move forward, it is always helpful to look back and to bring that history with us. So as we all know, Rabbi Sally Priesand was ordained in 1972. And so the history I'm about to briefly give you a gloss of, a brief overview of. You can find the broader story in The Sacred Calling, 4 decades of Women in the Rabbinate, edited by Rebecca Einstein-Shore, Rabbis Rebecca Einstein-Shore and Rabbi Alyssa Mendelsohn-Graft, with consulting editor Rabbi Renee Edelman by the CCR Press. For WN members, we have a PDF that we're going to make available to you of my chapter in that book, What is in a Word, which recalls this history. But again, standing on one foot, when in 1972, when Rabbi Priesand was ordained in that historic ordination, she actually received an empty tube without any kind of ordination document in the tube. That was because in the months running up to her ordination, first, she kind of did a lot of nudging herself to remind them that they would have to prepare a different type of document for her to reflect her gender, because Hebrew is a gendered language, and to make some decisions about that. And the faculty in Cincinnati basically launched into a whole bunch of meetings. Hard to believe in among rabbis in the Jewish world, lots of meetings, and in the end, because these documents were hand calligraphied in the old days on beautiful, rich vellum, it was not ready for her ordination. And so she received that empty tube. And if you think about the images that we treasure from that day of her ordination, the whole international press was assembled. You think somebody would have said, unroll the document and hold it. That would make a great photo. But that's part of the reason why there's no such photo. And so there was a lot of discussion among the faculty. Unfortunately, we don't have all of the documents that would have helped create that story. So the little bit we have to try to fill in the blanks. It seems like at the beginning of those conversations, if someone could admit the person who's in the waiting room, that'd be helpful. That the beginning of those discussions, there were different proposals. First, there were 2 proposals, and then there was a 3rd proposal. We know that. I'm just going to jump to the end of the story because that's what really matters for all of us. What we ended up with, and I apologize, I meant to actually take my smicha, which is wrapped up in the closet. I meant to take it out earlier. But we have in the chapter in The Sacred Calling, we have all of this with the original, even the format of how it came out. So the English is the same on the male document and the female document. And just note, I'm speaking in the binary as of 2022, and Rabbi Dr. Deborah Weisberg wrote the first non-binary smicha document that was given in 2022. But here in these 1972, the English was the same on both of these documents. And the most important part of the document is the title that is bestowed. So it was in English, of course, rabbi. But in the Hebrew, the top of the Hebrew was the same for everyone. But the title given to the men was Rabbeinu Harav, which is an historic title linking us all the way back to the 14th century. And it's in the traditional world, it's a very auspicious title. So maybe it's a little grandiose for all of us, but it is the title that everybody has received at HUC. But Sally was given Rav Umorah, rabbi and teacher. Now, Rabbeinu Harav basically means our teacher, the rabbi, our rabbi, our teacher. So intrinsically, in terms of what it is saying, is not that different. But again, the historic nature of that title is. Now, again, things have changed and things continue to change rapidly. Today, we have non-binary Hebrew. We also have a tradition in Israel of, and here and throughout the world, frankly, for women to have the choice if they want to have the Hebrew word Rav associated with them as a rabbi, a rabbah, the female version of rabbi. But again, when most of us were ordained, this was not being used and did not exist. So Rachel's going to get to the different choices you have today. But the last thing I want to say about the difference in the two documents is, so the title, which again is the most important part of this, was different. And then the other part was the concluding part in Hebrew. And strangely enough, this doesn't seem to be linked to any sort of ideology. Our guess is that the person who was rewriting the document in 1972, that they just wanted to make the language nicer. And in fact, when the faculty in the run-up to 2016 had a task force to finally equalize the choices given, that they decided to take the bottom part, the concluding words of the female form of this, and make that universal for everybody's, because it was a better reflection, as one of the faculty members said at that meeting, which I was present at, that it really better described what rabbis do in our day-to-day work, and is just a beautiful flow. It uses some biblical verses, so that's why that part is different. But again, our focus has mostly been on that title that is bestowed. Rachel is also going to be speaking about the people who signed the documents. So I'm going to throw it to you now, Rachel.
Thanks so much, Mary. So picking up in after that 2016 change, to share a little bit history that is recent history that many of us know, and just as a reminder of from where we have come to, in order to better understand where we are today and to where we go. And so in 2020, at the College Institute, a presidential task force on safe and respectful environments was formed by Dr. Andrew Rayfeld. And in 2021, the College Institute hired the law firm Morgan Lewis to launch an investigation in early 2021, which was open through 2021 and culminated in a full report and action plan, including recommendations being presented at the end of 2021. Among, there are many recommendations in there, which I know many of us have read. Among those were recommendations that related both to the College Institute taking accountability, to opportunities to create healing, potentially, God willing, healing experiences for survivors and victims and those who suffered harm, as well as important steps that the College Institute needed to take in order to continue deepening and improving the sacred and respectful culture within the College Institute. And so the work that I'm doing as Teshuvah director primarily focuses on the first and second of those, both the accountability taking and the opportunities for alumni to be together, to receive new documents, to engage in a reaffirmation of ordination. And the work that my colleagues, Rabbi Andrew Goodman, Director of Student Support, and Nicole Jones, who's our Director of HR, are doing, are really focused, along with many, many partners across the administration, are really focused on improving and deepening the sacred and respectful culture for our current HUC community, for students and for faculty and for staff and for our board members. So in early 2022, Rabbi Laura Novak-Weiner and Rachel Margolis were named as co-chairs of a Teshuvah working group which was constituted and began meeting in June of 2022 and made up of alumni from across our programs, from across the world, alumni who were all deeply, deeply committed to this work. And this group of alumni in the Teshuvah Working Group spent time initially doing some in-depth learning, primarily about restorative justice and about Teshuvah, both how we understand Teshuvah traditionally and how also we might understand Teshuvah in a contemporary context. And in early this year, in early 2023, both in January and then again in March, the Teshuvah Working Group issued its own recommendations, many of which paralleled the recommendations made in the Morgan Lewis report, but also dove into those recommendations a little bit more and made some more suggestions within those broader categories of recommendations. So the categories that the Teshuvah Working Group was focused on were around opportunities for listening, opportunities for ritual moments, and other opportunities, which included reaffirmation of ordination, which included the reissuing of diplomas and ordination documents, and which also included opportunities for and important experiences for the current HUC community, which include things that have been implemented already in the last number of years, including deepened Title IX and sexual harassment training, a new website and phone number, a new entire system for that matter for reporting violations, and that reporting structure has now changed in that it can be done anonymously, which is new for the College Institute and incredibly important that be one of the options in reporting, as well as increased learning opportunities for our College Institute, some of which have already begun taking place with days of learning that took place on each of the stateside campuses earlier this year. So I want to dive a little bit into the focus of today on our documents. And before I do so, I really want to echo Mary's comments that this work is dedicated to and founded upon the courage and bravery of the 170 individuals who shared their stories with Morgan Lewis, on the countless others who have shared stories and have spoken up in so many different ways over the years, through writing, through poetry, through speaking out publicly, through private, quiet conversations, and through their own actions. And this work, at the core of this work, our highest principle and highest value, in addition to the college taking accountability, has and will continue to be centering the voices of survivors. And so with that in mind, I'd love to share a little bit with you about some of the options and guiding principles for the reissued documents. And then would love to welcome questions. We know that some things have been particularly clear and others have been particularly unclear. And so our hope is that today we can really make clear that which has been unclear. And I encourage us all to please ask the good questions that we have. Yes, I would be remiss if not to acknowledge as well the incredibly important work, Mary, that you have done in so many of these areas, in being an advocate and a voice for those who aren't able to speak up, or for whatever reason, in being an advocate for getting the story out there and making sure that we understand our history, and in really pushing us all as a Jewish world and as a movement to make the changes that we need to make in order to create a more equitable Judaism and a more equitable Reform Judaism and a more equitable college institute. So with such gratitude to you, thank you. So as Mary shared, there have been, I'm going to speak about two different areas when we come to our documents. And of course, there are other reasons why someone might want a new document, but I'm going to really focus on two different areas. One is the one that you were focusing on, Mary, which is around the question of gendered language. And the second is around the hurt and pain and trauma caused by the signatories on those documents. So I'm going to start with the latter and return to the former. As far as the latter goes, the reissued, I'll just say this to start. Reissued documents we are making available to all alumni of HUC-JIR who would like one, whether because of either of those reasons, because of inequitable gendered language and or because of problematic and concerning and painful and pain-causing signatures of those who caused pain on the documents. We are making those available to anyone who has earned a degree at the College Institute. That is to say, for anyone who has an earned master's degree and an earned doctorate degree and or earned ordination or investiture, as cantorial ordination was called for so many years. I say earned only because unfortunately, we're not able to offer honorary doctorates at this time. So I just want to acknowledge that one caveat. So as far as the signatures go, we've received a number of questions around who will be signing my document. And so the answer to that question is as follows, that if you request a new document, it will have your whatever name on it you would like to have. It does not need to be your name, the name that you held at ordination or the name you had at your graduation. It does not need to have the name that is on your original document. It can be whatever name you would like to have on it now. That is for this special reissued document project. It will contain the original dates of your graduation or ordination. And the signatures that it will contain on it will be from our president, our provost, and our board chair, namely Andrew Rayfeld, Andrea Weiss, and David Edelson. Did I say it right? I think I said it right. We have many people in this fine institution who have very similar names, one to the other. So those are the only three signatures that will be on reissued documents. We know that, of course, for many of us, ordination documents in particular are filled with signatures, and some of those signatures bring tremendous feelings of respect and admiration and love and care, and some of those signatures bring feelings of tremendous pain. And we know that these new documents will not have the same signatures as were on our originals. And so there are many ideas that I'm happy to share with folks about what we're doing, what some individuals are choosing to do with their with the original documents and with the new ones, but just so that we have a clarity of signature, of whose signatures will be on those. And those would be the three signatures on all documents during this special reissued period. In terms of the language, I want to share my screen so that we can really see up close the opportunities for language. And I already have that ability, Mary, so we're all set with that. So I want to share my screen first to and I'll put the link in the chat for those of us who are currently on Zoom already, if that's something that you'd prefer. But I will also share share my screen.
And Rachel, you'll also share the document we can all print out right now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen to talk about, for starters, the new options for rabbinic title in Hebrew. There are two different places where gendered Hebrew comes into play in these documents. And the first is the rabbinic title. So as Mary said, there have been, as Mary shared, there have been these inequitable titles which were changed in 2016. And now all of our students have the opportunity to choose from among 3 titles. So the screen I'm sharing is the FAQs page about the reissued documents. And here the FAQ reads, what are the options for rabbinic title in Hebrew? And there are 3 options. There is the title that had been issued prior even to.
Rachel, can you make that a little bit bigger on your
computer? I would be happy to.
Everybody can also do that through their view options.
Sure. I would be happy to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to take down the share, make it bigger, and then reshare. So the first of those options, as Mary shared, is Morenu Harav. That is that traditional language that that had been used for centuries and which male colleagues had the opportunity, just received. It wasn't an opportunity, it was just a matter of course that was printed on their documents. That's this option, Morenu Harav, right here. The other 2 options that are available, again, to all of our students of all genders are Moratenu Harav, reflecting the gendered aspect of the Hebrew language with respect to the word moreh or morah, teacher, and retaining the title Rav. The third option, Moratenu Harabah, reflects the fact that some colleagues, some rabbis may prefer the title of Rabbah rather than Rav in Hebrew. And so all of our, just to give you a window in also to current practice, all of our current ordinees who are becoming rabbis, who are being ordained rabbis, have the option among all 3 of these titles, as do all those who would like a new reissued document. So you may choose which of those 3 you would like on your document. Now, the second piece of gender, as Mary shared, is, I'm going to share on the screen, is all the rest of the Hebrew is gendered because Hebrew is a gendered language. And so we now have 3 different options among which people can choose. I am sharing first the option for female language, and I want to note that rabbi title option is completely independent from the feminine Hebrew. I don't mean to say female, pardon me, the feminine Hebrew option. The feminine Hebrew refers to the Hebrew equivalent of so-and-so has fulfilled all requirements for graduation and is herewith ordained and is authorized and licensed to perform all rabbinical functions in the name of God and Israel. So this is the feminine Hebrew language that I've pulled up. The masculine Hebrew looks the same, just in the masculine. And I also wanted to share that we have, as Mary mentioned, we also have an option for non-binary Hebrew. And this is Hebrew that is adapted from the non-binary Hebrew project that we can find online. And so again, all of our students who are being ordained, as well as anyone who would like a new ordination document, may choose among masculine Hebrew, feminine Hebrew, or non-binary Hebrew. And once again, I just want to reiterate that that is an independent choice from the decision on which rabbinic title to use. If there are more questions on that, I'm so very happy to come back to it. I'm just going to share a few more things with respect to other options and alternatives when it comes to our documents. So one of the things that that we also heard from survivors was that some survivors might not want to receive a new document, but might want to indicate in some way that as many museums are doing more and more these days, to have a plaque or a description adjacent to, affixed next to our documents, sharing some of both the tremendous accomplishment of receiving a diploma, of receiving ordination, of receiving a master's degree, of receiving a doctorate, as well as the harm caused by the contents of that document. And so we also have, and again, happy to share out the links. We also have on our website, which is huc.edu/replacement documents. That's the easiest way to find all of this information. We also have on our website three texts for download, that one reflecting a master's or a doctorate degree, one reflecting an ordination, either cantorial or rabbinic, and one reflecting specifically a rabbinic ordination with inequitable gendered language. And we have a text that we've specifically crafted for this, that one could download and affix next to one's documents and or rework in whatever way is meaningful to you. So I wanted to also share one of those examples I brought for us today, as we're on a call of the WRN. I brought for us specifically the text that addresses both the signatures and the inequitable Hebrew language. And so this reads, "This document records the tremendous achievement of ordination from Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion. It also contains signatures from individuals who have been accused of harassment, discrimination, and related misconduct. The repeated and credible allegations of sexual harassment led to an investigation and Teshuvah process by HUC-JIR beginning in 2021. In addition, this document contains inequitable Hebrew language that is specific to female-identified colleagues, a practice that began as early as 1972. In 2016, HUC-JIR addressed this discrepancy by issuing ordination documents that offer choices in the Hebrew title to rabbis of all genders. As such, this ordination document testifies to both accomplishment and pain." I want to share one more piece, which may seem like a small piece, but I think is actually quite tremendous and reflective of striving for the kind of language that we all ought to be using, which is that we just this year, for this project and for our new ordinees, will no longer be using any gendered language in the English. So if I look at my ordination document, it contains the word she in the English referring to me. And we can't help but include gender in Hebrew because it's a gendered language. English is not a gendered language. We do not need to include any gendered pronouns in the English. And so no longer will those appear. I just want to reiterate, I can't remember if I said it or not, so I'll reiterate, this opportunity to receive a new reissued document, it'll take about 8 to 12 weeks from the time that you submit to receive, that you make a request to receive a new document. And the opportunity for requesting is open through the end of February. So we still have a good amount of time to make those requests. We will, of course, make sure to send out more communications over the coming months to really ensure that all alumni know about this opportunity. And I'd encourage you, if you're here right now and or listening, to consider it for yourself, to consider whether this might be meaningful to you, and also to share out with those alumni in your circles and make sure that we all know about the opportunities that are available to us.
Thank you, Rachel. And again, it really need everyone's partnership to make sure that the graduates of HUC-JIR of all different programs are partners as clergy and as Jewish professionals and academics, that they have the opportunity to make some choices and decide what they would like. Thank you so much, Rachel. If there are any questions or anybody would like to come off, mute and say anything, you're welcome to. Again, we're in the recording part of this day. And just a reminder, and then we'll be sharing this video widely. I think that's Lisa Dawson.
Yeah, I was wondering how you were envisioning people using that addendum, that last paragraph.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great question. So I've heard from some colleagues who this is adapted from a number of colleagues who have already created those paragraphs for themselves. And we see it in being used in a number of ways. So I'll propose one, and I'm sure that collectively we could come up with many, many more. We've heard from some colleagues that they would like to, that they do not actually want a new document, and that they still want to indicate in some way the challenges of their current document. And so the vision, one possibility would be to print out that paragraph and affix it next to our current documents. So that's one possibility. Again, I'm sure we could come up with many, many more. I want to share, I see, Marcia, you just unmuted yourself. I want to share two more things which I forgot. One of which is to say, this is free of charge to all who would like this. And the second piece is that everyone is invited to, in whatever way is meaningful to you, to keep your original document. You do not need to return your original document in order to receive a new one. The third, to share briefly, and more to come in the next couple days, to those who are listening to the recording, this already exists. With such gratitude to our colleague, Rabbi Carrie Tooling, who worked so thoughtfully and openly and innovatively to create a liturgy for affixing, for receiving a new document, for considering what to do with the original, provides some possibilities, and for affixing a new document. And so that will be made available widely before anyone receives their new document. Marcia, did you have a question?
Marla.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Marcia had a question, I think.
Oh yeah, quick question. What is, and you may have said it, so forgive me if I missed it. What's going to be written on the ordination certificate, the new one?
Sure. So the new one, I'll share again. I'm going to share I'm arbitrarily choosing one of the Hebrew gendered. So if this is not what correlates with any particular individual's gender, please understand that they will correlate, of course, with the gendered language that you choose. So this is this is a template of the ordination document and what it will look like. I'm actually going to zoom out for a moment so that we can see the entirety of the document. So there will be, the seal would be down at the bottom, and it would say Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion at the top, just as all ordination documents do. That's just not on the template I have. My apologies for that. And I want to scroll down for one moment to just show that down here at the bottom of the document, it will also have the reissued date on it. So we felt it was important to indicate both the date of ordination as well as the date of reissue. So the document will essentially look like this, though of course it would read in the English: the Faculty and Board of Governors of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion hereby certify that name in English, whatever name anyone provides, as well as name in Hebrew, whatever name anyone provides. Again, it's entirely up to each individual what name in English one would like to use and what name in Hebrew one would like to use.
So that's really helpful. And I saw that. I'm just wondering, what is this going to be, a piece of paper? Is it
Pardon me.
Is it, what's the material? That's what I'm wondering.
Wonderful. Thank you. So this is printed on the same, so there's at some point, and I don't remember the year, Mary, I don't know if you perhaps know the year, at some point along the way, before I was ordained in 2013, certainly, there was a shift from hand calligraphed parchment to printed thick, beautiful paper. And so it will not be hand calligraphed. For some of us, those documents might have been hand calligraphed originally. It will be printed, but it will be the same size as the current ordination documents. I say the same size as the current ordination documents just to make one distinction, which is to say our registrar is hard at work on making consistent all of our diplomas and ordination documents. And so there is a possibility that it might be a slightly different size from an original, depending on when you received your original, but it will still be the large ordination document, and the master's degree will still be a master's degree or doctorate degree sized. Rennie, please. Oh, you're just muted. Hold on.
I muted myself and unmuted myself. Sorry. I don't remember the year either, but I have a feeling it was one of the years, after the recession and part of sort of general cutbacks. So, maybe around 2010, 2011, that was switched over.
Thank you.
Lisa Delson said
it was 2009.
Well, that was the year of the reception. Okay. I knew that was the reason for it.
Thank you so much. Other questions?
Rachel, is there anything specifically you would like our non-rabbinic colleagues to know? I know a lot of this content did have to do specifically about the rabbinic ordination documents, but of course the same offer and is available to everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary. I really want to make it clear that this opportunity is available to every single person who has received an earned master's degree, doctorate, or ordination or investiture from HUC-JIR. And so, though we, as you said, we focused in large part, especially because of the language on rabbinic documents, we know that the signatures, especially of past presidents, can be tremendously painful for many of us. And we really want to ensure that everyone knows that you are, as an alum of HUC-JIR, of a master's, doctoral, or cantorial or rabbinic program, eligible to receive a new document. So thank you for that. And I do want to share one word as well for our cantorial colleagues, which is in line with the change that happened in 2012, I believe. All cantorial documents will use, ordination documents will use the word ordained and not invested. So even if your original cantorial document says invested, a reissued document would say ordained.
And of course, we know that's not only important for what it symbolizes, but also for different types of chaplaincy work that people want to engage in.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions before we turn off the recording? Okay, well, we'll say a formal thank you, and then we're going to have a couple of minutes just for the WRN community. We're very grateful for Rabbi Rachel Maimin for everything you're doing and for spending time with us today. And we, are grateful for this repair. And thank you for everyone who's participating and amplifying these messages.
And thanks to Rabbi Mary Zamore for organizing today and bringing us together, and for all of your thought leadership and advocacy leadership, for listening, for caring, for amplifying voices for so many years. and for all that you do with such gratitude as the leader of the WRN.
And I'll just add, for spearheading that dramatic change, really, Mary deserves the credit for pushing that through.
Thank you, Rennie.
Completely. Yep.